Everyone get out!
Hello tankers and tankettes, and welcome to another tank review, or rather a tank preview. I'm on the test server and I'm looking at the new tier 8 Chinese heavy premium, the 112 or the 112 or the 112, one of those, take your pick. So this is, like I said, a preview, and bear that in mind because these are all kind of preliminary impressions. They've been formed after like a dozen battles, and I've had some nice battles in this thing, but of course it's the test server, so it's not exactly like the live server because the conditions are a little bit different. You get lots of people playing high tiers that normally, they might only have a few hundred battles and then they're rolling around in tier 9s and tier 10s, and of course everyone's firing gold ammo like crazy because you've got 50 bazillion million credits, and as we all know, that's over 9,000. So, like I said, it is the tier 9 heavy, and there's also going to be a tier 8 heavy even. Oh god, numbers, why do you mock me so? There's also going to be a tier 8 medium, and they have a pretty similar gun. So I'll do my usual thing. I'll run through the pros and cons. And I've found an armor picture model thing of this. I don't have it to hand, but the pros are frankly this armor here, this frontal armor, and some of this turret armor as well, is absolutely fantastic. This look at this slope, and this is 120. Compare that to the IS-6's 100. And it's actually got, I think, a similar slope. In fact, it might be even slightly steeper than the IS-6 slope. So the effective armor is better. And yes, there have been a lot of comparisons of it to the IS-6, and it's the obvious one to compare it to because of the guns. And it gets limited matchmaking. So I'll refer to the IS-6 occasionally, and it does play somewhat similar to the IS-6, but not exactly. The other good thing is the turret armor. These are they are weak-ish spots. If you're coming up against tier 8 tank destroyers, tier 9 tank destroyers, some of the tier 9 heavies, they will be able to pen those, but actually the armor on those is okay. I think if you're coming up against tier 6s and tier 7s, they're going to be looking at those and going, ooh, weak spot. But they'll probably be bounce. But high pen guns will be able to get through those. So those are not as, they're not as significant a weak spot as this seems, but they are a weak spot of sorts. The armor on the side is actually, I think, less than the IS-6, again with the comparisons, but you see these boxes here? You can just about make it out. That's actually spaced armor. So not only is this, it's angled, but it's actually angled spaced armor, so that is going to bounce shots all day long. And if you're angled out too far, then it's still going to go through because it's only 80mm. But yeah, if you've got your angle correct, then that is going to be really strong, and the tracks are going to eat a fair few shots as well. Now, this is actually going to be superior to the IS-6 for side scraping, in my opinion. Simply because, well, look at the IS-6. It's got these beveled shoulders. Now, when you're angled, that front plate's really strong because not only is it sloped, but it's at an angle. But you've only got the slope there, so it's the equivalent of sitting, whichever way. If you're angled or not, if you're angled, okay, that's going to go off your side armor quite nicely. But that is negating the angle on that particular, those spots there. That isn't the case with the 112 because look, it's got those. This slope is all the way across basically. So this thing is just as strong angled as it is. In fact, it's stronger angled as it is pointed at, straight at someone. The turret is, I think, going to be stronger frontally. The IS-6 you will find sometimes gets penned, not so much if they hit the sides here, like where the stars are, that will tend to bounce. But if someone can hit you just it tends to be more that side than that side, because obviously the gun mantlet is asymmetric. But I think the cheeks on this are actually going to be stronger, because it's a 240 and it's quite nicely rounded. So the turret on this thing is stronger. I think the gun depression is going to be I don't know the exact numbers for the IS-6. I have a feeling it's as bad, if not worse, than the IS-6. It's certainly not better, and it definitely suffers on maps where there's any kind of terrain at all. So, in theory, you could be quite strong hull down, though. Again, remember those hatches. It depends what you're going hull down against. If it's like a Foch, for instance, it's just going to hurt you anyway. But you're not going to be able to be hull down that often, but it's nice to have that turret armor anyway. What else has it got? It has actually quite a lot of ammunition. Now compare that to the IS-6, which carries 30 rounds total. I'll just do that so you can see the total amount in one go. That carries 30 round total, rounds even. This carries 45, and that is actually a little bit of it's a bit of an oddity, but at least it feels odd to me, because the IS-6 actually has the faster rate of fire, and I don't think the internal volume is going to be that much higher, but somehow they've decided this gets an extra 15 rounds of ammunition, and it fires slower. You're never going to run out of ammo on this thing. On the IS-6, once or twice I've come close to running out. I've come down to like my last APCR shells, but that's never going to happen in this thing. Not in 15 minutes. You're not going to run out of ammunition ever. The other nice thing about the ammunition is it gets heat ammo. This is more expensive than the IS-6's premium ammo, but you're getting extra penetration. It's, well, let's see, 250 pen versus 217. That was actually 300 pen, but Chinese heat ammo got a nerf, because it didn't actually get nerfed along with all the other ammunition. For some reason they left Chinese premium ammo alone for a patch. Go figure. Or at least some of it. So that's still 250 though. That's quite nice. So in that regard it is definitely superior to the IS-6. But that ammunition is costing you more, so you want to make sure those rounds count. What else can I say that's good about it? The mobility is okay. It has a weaker engine than the IS-6, but a higher speed limit. So on flat ground, you will always beat the IS-6. Going uphill, it's probably about the same, because it's carrying around something like 7 tons less weight, if I'm adding up correctly. Probably not. But 5 tons, 5.3 tons, something like that. Going up a hill, it didn't really feel any faster than the IS-6 going up a hill. It might be marginally faster, but it's on flat ground that this thing is actually pretty good. And in comparison to the where are we? Let's set that as primary, just to make things easy on myself. This thing is actually not much faster. It's actually got a less powerful engine. Obviously it's less heavy, but the speed limit's only 5 kilometers an hour faster. So you get these two on fast ground, and it's actually hard to say that this one has a definitive advantage in mobility. It's obviously a bit more mobile, but not that much so. And this one has the armor going for it, whereas the T-34-3 doesn't especially, but I will possibly do that in a separate preview. Haven't really played it much so far. So I think that's just about all the pros so far. I mean, actually there is one last thing. View range 380. That's pretty good for a heavy of this nature with a low turret, because this thing is as low as the IS-6. It's actually got an extra 30 meters, and if you stuck optics or something on like that, you could boost it to over 400. So that's obviously going to be advantageous in a lot of situations. Extra view range is always nice. Things where this doesn't do so well, the biggie is this here, the lower front plate. This is a significant target. It is by far weaker, or it feels by far weaker than the IS-6 lower front plate. Of course, the IS-6 has got a weak spot right in the middle of its upper front plate, but in practice, I've found you need to be quite close up to reliably get rounds into that thing. This is a 175 pen guns. I found we're going through that with no problem. With regular ammunition, you can tell when it's premium ammunition because it makes a smaller hole. And obviously, heat ammunition sounds different as well. But I found I got penned a couple of times through the upper front plate. It was usually because I was on terrain that negated the angle somewhat, so the tank was effectively tipped forward. And it tended to be high pen guns. It tended to be tier 9 guns. So there were one or two things that went through around about there, because I think that's the driver port maybe, or the driver's optics. But on the whole, upper front plate is that's what you want to be showing people. You want to be hiding this if at all possible, because that is quite weak. Side armor is okay, like I said. If you're angling not too far, it'll bounce, but if you're sort of angled like that, obviously shots are going to go in. Rear armor's obviously not worth talking about. Turret, side and rear. I did get penned a couple of times in the side of the turret. Wasn't sure if it was premium ammunition or not, but it's only 130, and it's 130 sloped, but this is at tier 8, so there are guns that will probably still get through that. But on the whole, it's quite a rounded shape, so you're going to bounce a fair few shots off that. But you should always be keeping, the front of your turret towards people if possible. It fires rounds slower, like I've mentioned, than the IS-6. That lower rate of fire is it hurts a bit. It's 4.5 versus 5.1, so it's not massively lower, but it is there. I did occasionally, I was alone against one or two enemies, or more enemies than me anyway, and I was struggling to put out the firepower in time. But the mobility lets you maneuver fairly well. The traverse is 26 is okay for a heavy. It's actually turret was marginally better than the IS-6. Hull traverse is the same, but you'll probably feel a little bit of difference because obviously the IS-6 has got a more powerful engine. I don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, the gun is what it is. It's 175 pen. It's very similar stats to the IS-6 gun in most regards. Same horrible accuracy, same horrible aim time. Standard penetration is... it's usable sometimes, but if you come up against tier 9s, that is definitely not enough, and you don't have the accuracy to hit weak spots, not with .46. This thing at least fortunately gets the heat ammo, which has more penetration. That has, the penetration on that is about equal to the normal penetration on the long 90mm French gun, for instance, which gets 212, so it's barely better than the regular penetration of that. Obviously you're doing a lot more alpha, but the alpha only counts if you can actually penetrate to begin with. So the gun is better than the IS-6 in that you get the heat ammo, but it's worse in that you get the slower rate of fire. So on the whole, I would say it compares favourably to the IS-6, but it has issues that IS-6 doesn't have. This is, chief among them. But I would say, it's okay. It feels reasonably balanced as it is, and it might get some slight changes based on however many tens of thousands of battles Wargaming will take that data from. But for just that initial impression, it feels like an okay machine. So we'll get on to some gameplay. Like I said, I did find a picture from For the Record of the armour. I'll stick that up. And I'll also put up a clip where I was actually in one-on-one combat with a T-34-3, and you can have a quick gander at that and see how I did. And bear in mind, obviously, test server, who knows who was driving that thing. But this actually came out pretty favourable, as you'll see. So, if you will bear with me through those clips, we will get on to some gameplay. And here we actually are in battle, and it's Fjords, and the matchmaking has been relatively kind. It's surprisingly normal given that we're on the test server. I had most of my battles in this with basically other tier 8 premiums, some where there were tier 9s, others, there were a few where there was like a single unlucky tier 6, but it's mostly been tier 7s and tier 8s. There's still a few premiums in this one. There's a bunch of super Pershings on each side. The other side has a pair of 112s, an IS-6, and a pair of T-34-3s. We've got some similar tanks, but I'm the only 112 on this team. And that is probably most why it's probably the main reason why I chose this replay, and it also shows that being aggressive is good. Being aggressive helps, like I was saying. So I think I was probably fiddling with my graphics settings there, so you have to excuse the slight pause. Now, looking at the mini-map, I decide I'm going to go up north because I think they're going to need help up there. They're going to need the firepower, if not my extra armour. Yeah, who goes AFK on a test server, for crying out loud? Anyway, slowly climbing the hill, slowly. This thing is not great uphill. I think the IS-6 might actually beat it slightly on uphill performance. They're probably about the same. That said, I haven't actually figured out what the horsepower per ton ratio is. They must be roughly equal. Neither is exactly amazing uphill, but they're still a lot better than some of the other premiums. They'd still beat a T-34 and a Lerva, no problem. The FCM 50T is the only one that would win that race, I think, out of all the tier 8 premiums. So, not really much spotted yet, but the AC 48 alone would not hold back. You know, if there's more than, say, 2 tanks. Even if there is only 2 tanks, they could still rush him, and there's definitely more. 5100, that could be bad. That's got quite a lot of penetration. That's the second best penetration of any tier 8 heavy. Fortunately, I don't need to worry about my penetration with that target. Now, they've already whacked that 48. He's falling back a little bit. 5100 is being really uncautious. Yeah, he's being really uncautious there. That bounced off my upper front plate. This is going to... wow, pancake tank. That tank is so weird looking. Most people, if they're trying to snapshot you, it's probably going to go off your upper front plate. That's a good thing. Wow. This gun is exactly like the IS-6. It's horrible aim time. I don't know what... I think the 416 shot me there. I think that was the damaging shot. Probably premium ammo because this is the test server. Yeah, T-44, I don't think you want to be doing that. I've only got 175 pen, but it's more than enough for you. So, I am in a perfect position here. He's angled, but he's angled too much. And that let me get a nice shot on his front axle. He's... yeah, he's not backing off. He's actually, you know, if the super Pershing hadn't finished him, I would have. So it remains just to push on the frying pan tank. That was lower front plate. That was definitely premium ammo, I think, that one. Bounced a super Pershing shot. That was friendly super Pershing. That thing going backwards almost as fast as this thing going forwards. It's a bit ridiculous. Yeah. Valid tactic is to drive that thing backwards into battle, clearly. So I've lost a fair chunk of hit points there. You can see one of those was premium APCR probably. Didn't really need to be for the lower front plate. That thing, 175 pen guns can pen that with ease. I think maybe the IS-6 hit me at some point, because I lost quite a lot of damage. I'm not sure what gun that object is packing actually, but yeah. The upper front plate is great, lower front plate garbage, as Jingles would say. So we've got this upper half of the map we've got controlled, but there's still some enemy heavies left which could be problematic. So we better clear those guys up. The Tiger II I don't know what the Tiger 2 is doing. He's just sitting there, not even attempting to take cover. And again, this thing is alright angled. I'm angling, the other guy, the 112, is not. So I can just wait for him to pop out and pen him all day long. But I can't really hang around because my teammates are getting damaged. This Tiger 2 is dying at a rate of knots. Yeah, he puts a shot in, but he's really low health. One more shot's going to finish him from... Yep, there we go, from anything. It's actually the other 112 that's quite high health. So there's a T-32 and a 112. The low health 112 is obviously the priority here because I can finish him off with a single shell. So we take his gun out. Unfortunately, take a shot in the side. T-32, not massive alpha, so I could afford to take that hit. But yeah, this thing has got good armor, but it's almost like the KV-5. It looks. It's hard to say this is definitely superior to the IS-6 because it's got some superior stats, but the lower rate of fire and the massive that massive weak spot of the lower front plate. I think it's better in some regards. It's worse in others. But in terms of things like gun depression, they're probably about equal. And mobility on flat ground, you know, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. So, yeah, there we go. The damage count from that was okay. It was pretty decent. I should actually say this was the very first battle I had. At first glance, it looks like I made a quite nice amount of credits. Bear in mind, this was with premium and with special event, you know, the mission bonuses. If you take away that stuff, actually, I am a little disappointed at how much credits this made, given the amount of damage I actually did. That amount of damage in a T-34 would be, I think, you know, this is just going with my feeling, I think that would be more profit. That amount of damage with an IS-6, it feels like it would be more profit than that without premium, I'm saying here. But even with premium, if you take away the mission bonus, it's not even 100k profit. That's nearly 3,500 damage. In a T-34, that would have easily been over 100,000. In a KV-5, that would have been really over 100,000. You're looking at like 120,000 there. So that feels a bit disappointing, but it has other things going for it. And if you like the IS-6, if you can live with the IS-6, you're probably going to like this thing. It's got that same horrible gun for a Tier 8 heavy. It's the aim time that kills it more than anything else. The penetration is pretty bad as well. But if you can live with that on the IS-6, you will certainly enjoy this. And if you enjoy brawlers, then you'll probably like this as well. Like I said, it's got some drawbacks, but it's got some nice things going for it. It's fairly well balanced as a premium goes. So, yeah, bear in mind, all this was preliminary impressions. I've played like a dozen battles. This is all my first, you know, this is what I think of it now at this point. I probably will get one at some point. It might be a while. My opinion on it may change. We'll see. There will be a proper review at some point if that's the case. And it would be interesting to compare the two, see if my conclusions have actually changed at all. So, if you thought this was a useful video, if you liked it, you can hit the like button, you can leave a comment, you can subscribe to my channel, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.